In this video, I'm going to help you understand how much you should be allocating to your Google Ads campaigns. And by the end of it, you're going to be well placed to make informed decisions about what campaign budgets you should be implementing. And this is going to be relevant, or relative, should I say, to what you're actually selling. Now, this is going to be focused on e-commerce because at the end of the day, that's what my agency specializes in helping. But there's no reason you can't apply this approach to lead generation, because ultimately it comes down to the value of what you're selling, whether that be a product or a service, which I'll explain as we go through the video. Just this last week, I audited a Google ad account that was burning around £8,000 a month. And the biggest problem, or the biggest issue that was leading to volatile campaign performance and not able to develop campaigns effectively to get a positive return on ad spend consistently, it basically, a lot of it, I'd say 80% of the issue came down to how budgets were allocated across campaigns. Some were hugely underfunded, not allowing campaigns to optimize properly, and some were hugely overfunded, leading to wasted ad spend. So if you follow me through this video, you're going to have a better idea of how to kind of approach this and then get your ad campaigns or your ad account in a better place. So if you find this video useful, please like and subscribe to the channel. I've got more content coming in the weeks ahead. All of it is aimed at helping you get the most out of your Google Ads campaigns. So why does budget matter? Well, when it comes to optimizing your Google ad campaigns, you're relying on Google Smart Bidding systems, its algorithm to optimize your campaigns to go for the right audiences and spend the right amount of money to get the biggest return on investment back for you. Gone are the days where we bid on clicks. Years ago, it used to be we'd pay X amount per click on said keyword, and you just basically be paying for your traffic and then optimizing it around what performed the best. But that's all got, that's long gone. We're now relying on smart bidding systems, and basically it comes down to you're now bidding for sales. At the end of the day, you're giving Google a constraint, whether that be a cost per sale or a return on ad spend, being essentially what you spend on Google versus what you get back. And then Google's then going out there, identify the audiences that are most likely to purchase at the right rate to get you the return or the cost per sale that you want. So it's going to identify that pool of people. And as it kind of optimizes and figures out who, some of those are going to be like cold leads, some of them are going to be warm, some of them are going to be hot, some of them are going to be ready to buy right now. And it's very good at identifying who that is over a period of time. At the beginning, if you're at the very, very beginning of running a campaign, it's got to learn this, and it takes a little bit of time to get going. If you've got data that you can give it, business data, like customer lists, you can give it and say, these are our customers. It can go out there and say, well, who looks like this in terms of profile? What device do they use? What time of day are they online? What do they search for? What's their search history like? And then it can basically draw all these data points to identify who is most likely to buy from the website. And each person within the audience is going to be very, very hot, very warm, or very cold. So the audience identified in red are going to be those that it's going to bid most aggressively for. Those in yellow, it's going to be less so, and then green, it's going to be less so again. Basically, it's going to try harder to reach those people that it is most confident that are ready to buy. So this is brilliant. It works very, very well. It's very difficult to match using a manual system. The problem that comes about is volume at the end of the day, because a ad campaign needs enough of these data points to figure out reliably who these people are that are going to lead to a sale. So if you've got, like Google say that you need a minimum of 15 sales a month for it to be able to optimize effectively. That's kind of the threshold at which it's going to have almost enough data points to sort of say, oh yeah, I know who that buyer is. I know what product works well. I know what keyword works well. I know what audience bucket they sit in. I know what device they use. It does vary somewhat on the market, depending on search volume, how competitive it is. The more competitive the market is in general, who you're competing with, the harder it can be to optimize, even if you have got the numbers. But in our experience, the threshold is better to be 30 sales plus. That way you're getting a sale a day and the data's a bit fresher, rather than a sale every other, like 3 or 4 days. So it can, when you get to sort of a low number of sales over, in a week or a month, when you're using Google Smart Bidding or a smart campaign like Performance Max, you're going to find that it's volatile. You're going to find that it's not able to hit your return consistently. So it's kind of, there's a little bit guessing. So like an analogy would be, getting an archer to try and hit a bullseye when they're blindfolded. And the Google algorithm is no different. If you've got the data, it can then learn more and figure out who exactly your customer is for the products that you're promoting in a said campaign, and it's going to be more reliable and more consistent. Sometimes budget can be the barrier to that. And that brings me nicely onto the learning phase. So the learning phase is basically the system figuring out what who your ideal customer is, who's most likely to purchase from you, what are they most likely to purchase. So then it can obviously optimize your campaigns, in a way that it knows what products to push to which people to get the highest chance of getting the sale at the return that you want. So with that, there's going to be a learning phase, and that's something else you've got to bear in. That learning phase can vary depending on how many sales you have, but Google says typically it's around 7 to 10 days. So this is a graph that I've put together just to illustrate this point. Is, say for example, at day 0 here, budget is increased. So the grey area here, 0 to 10 days, this is the learning phase. This is the phase at which it's going to go through to figure out, okay, you've turned the campaign on, these are the products I've got, this is the budget I have, these are the constraints I have, who's the audience, who turns into a sale. So it's going to probe different audiences, and it isn't always going to get it right. So in this period, you are going to get some volatility, and that's when you get the nervousness sets in, because you're getting very erratic performance. It's all of a sudden you're spending a lot more, and it's going to depend on your average order value as well, which we're going to come to shortly. But essentially, this is the phase where you've got to kind of sit tight and not fiddle with it, not back it off, because you just got to let it complete that learning phase. And then following that, it's the days that follow that you can actually assess what the performance is likely to be. So you're going to see the red line representing traffic. You're going to see this gradually ramp up because you've increased your budget, and then it's kind of going to kind of plateau. And you should see a similar kind of projection with sales as well. At the end of the day, it isn't going to be a perfectly curved line like this. It's going to be noisy. It's going to be very up and down, particularly in this learning phase here. But it's the days that follow this that you've got to you assess your campaigns. You're going to be looking at, okay, what have we spent? What are the sales? How's the conversion rate changed? And that's what you're looking to see. You're looking to see an improvement in performance because your account's getting more budget, you're getting more traffic, you're getting more sales, you're getting more data points. So therefore, it's better able to optimize. So you should be seeing an improved efficiency as well. Another thing you can layer over the kind of intelligence that you're gathering as to whether your Google Ads budget is appropriate for what you're selling is thinking about the average order value. So taking the paddleboards example, quick search for paddleboards, price ranges from 14999 upwards. If I was selling something a little bit more specialist, say composite paddleboards, a bit higher end, someone that more of a hardcore enthusiast, the price range increases up to £700 in some cases. So based on what your catalog is made up of, that is included in your campaign, is going to kind of set what your average order value is. And this is going to kind of help. It is going to kind of dictate what budget you're going to be committing to your Google Ad campaigns. And the reason for that is that the way Google Ads bidding works these days is as advertisers, we don't really bid, although we're billed for cost per click or by Google. We don't really bid for cost per clicks anymore. We bid for sales. With smart bidding, we're giving it a constraint to work to, whether that be a cost per sale, target cost per action in this example being the bid strategy, or return on ad spend, the cost per sale relative to the average order value. What is that? That's the constraints it's working to. So as advertisers, that's what we're bidding for. And that's going to be what all your competitors are bidding for as well. You're not bidding for clicks, you're bidding for sales. So your average order value is very much going to dictate what your average cost per sale might be. So taking, for example, if you're selling a product with an average order value of 450 with a margin of 25%, gross profit of 112 quid, if the market is accepting a cost per sale of £65, likely lower, that is, and that's kind of where your sweet spot is, a cost per sale. If you've got a daily budget of £10 a day, your Google Ads campaign it's not going to be possible for it to achieve one sale a day. So you're unlikely going to hit that magic 30 sales per day. So just think about that when you've layered everything over with search volume and seasonality and whatever else business intelligence you have from selling online. when you're introducing a new range perhaps that you're not quite familiar with, it is at a higher price point, you're going to have to expect to commit a higher daily budget for it to achieve that. Now, something else I'll just show you to demonstrate that point is this is a survey done, or a collection of data, should I say, by WordStream in 2025 based on the Google ad accounts that it's got in its system. It's basically pulled industry averages of what the kind of click-through rate, cost per clicks, conversion rates, and the cost per lead. And what you'll see is in each vertical, and this is actually for lead generation in this case, but it's all, you can all access this on the WordStream blog. But just what I wanted to highlight is that you'll see that the categories that would generally attract a higher value clientele, the cost per lead is higher, and it's exactly the same thing as I've just described with e-commerce. The higher the average order value and the higher the margin, the higher the reward to the retailer, the market is going to push up your average cost per sale. Look, for example, apparel and fashion, cost per lead $101 versus animals and pets at $31.82, attorneys and legal services $131 versus automotive repair at $28. It's you're just looking at like what the potential clientele value is, and that's kind of pushing up the cost per lead. And that's because in the advertising in a cost per click space in Google, with the smart bidding system that's in place today, you're not bidding for clicks anymore, you're bidding for sales. So it's going to be based on the reward of that sale that kind of dictates in the market what the sweet spot of that cost per sale is going to be. And it comes down to how much you're willing to pay for it, of how much of that share you're going to get. So I hope that kind of illustrates the point as to how a higher average order value and a higher margin potential, higher reward for the sale is going to kind of push up that cost per sale. And you have to kind of factor that in when you're thinking about your daily budget with your Google campaign. Here's an account that we took on a few months ago. Limited by budget was a problem, and this is the kind of impact that increasing the budget had. Just here you've got where the budget was changed. That's kind of like the learning phase, 10 to 14 days. And you can see how the conversion rate of the accounts actually increased from where it was here to here and beyond. And that's basically because the campaigns had enough volume to optimize for and to actually achieve a higher conversion rate. So the account was spending more, it had a higher conversion rate. So with that came more sales at a lower cost per sale and a higher return on ad spend. And the problem wasn't keywords so much. Data feed wasn't in bad shape, but it needed a little bit of work, but it was achievable, and it was mostly budget that was holding this back. So I hope that kind of demonstrates how just by getting the budget right can be the difference between success and failure. So that concludes what I wanted to talk about in this video. We've covered how bid strategy works and how the budget constraint can influence how your campaigns can optimize. We've also discussed how to kind of overcome that with getting enough volume, what the thresholds are with regards to getting your campaigns to optimize. We've talked about how average order value can also affect how you allocate budget to your campaigns if you're selling a particularly high value product, perhaps something technical, some sporting equipment or something like that does attract a higher average order value. And also you are challenged in some cases where if it is very niche or very high end, you're going to be wrestling with volume problems in the first place. So it's important to make sure that you've got at least the Google campaign has got enough budget to get enough traffic on a daily basis to be able to give you a chance of getting that sale in the first place. So if you've got value from this video today, please like and subscribe to the video. We've got, as I say, we've got content coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're going to dig a bit deeper into budget allocation and other ways to assess, how to optimize your budget and get better performance from your campaigns, along with other subjects on Google Ads management too. So, as I say, if you're keen to see those, subscribe to the channel and you'll be notified as and when they go live. But that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Take care. See you soon.